I heard you're trapped in a miserable situation because of some outdated fertility treatments. A few years after our divorce, I ran into my husband with that same sarcastic smirk he always wore. We were in a renowned wine country, and the encounter was entirely unexpected. All that effort, and for what? He sneered, looking down at me. He had remarried and had children, living a seemingly perfect life, convinced he was the victor, and mocking me for my struggles. And whose story might that be? I retorted, gently patting my slightly rounded belly. I wonder who really needs fertility treatments now. He had no idea that he was about to face a shocking revelation. No matter how much he ranted or clung to the past, it was too late for regrets. His false sense of happiness was starting to crumble. Our encounter was setting the stage for the divergence in our lives, sharply contrasting our fortunes. The pursuit of happiness and those who miss it would be defined by this moment. I'm Mary, a travel agent. I love crafting travel plans for my clients, making their journeys memorable and satisfying. I found great fulfillment in this work. Stephen and I met through a workplace romance. He joined my branch as the new manager. With his calm demeanor and kind smile, he always treated me with gentleness. During busy seasons like the summer holidays, we often worked late into the night. We chat excitedly during breaks or support each other through tough times, and gradually, we spent more and more time together. Eventually, we realized our feelings for each other and started dating, leading to our marriage. After we got married, I was transferred to a different branch of the travel agency. The job was demanding, with long hours and a lot of overtime. You've worked so hard without complaint. Now that we're married, it's okay to relax a bit and be a homemaker, my husband said with genuine concern, making me feel incredibly happy. Despite his suggestion, I found my work fulfilling and had a dream I was determined to realize. I had saved diligently, living frugally for this very purpose, so I chose to continue working even after we tied the knot. My husband respected my aspirations, and we both threw ourselves into our respective jobs, understanding and supporting each other's commitments. Each evening, we returned home to find comfort and joy in each other's company, relishing the simple happiness of our routine. 2 years into our marriage, a sense of unease began to creep in. It's taking a while for us to have a baby, isn't it? I asked, noticing that 2 years had passed without conceiving. Having lost my parents while I was still a student and growing up as an only child, I often felt lonely. Because of this, I always dreamed of having a large family. After getting married, I longed to have at least 2 children, not a large brood, but certainly more than one. There's no need to rush. They will come when the time's right, he reassured me, agreeing with my desire to start a family. I wonder if I might be infertile. Maybe I should get checked out at the hospital, I said, feeling downcast. Don't be so hard on yourself. Everything's going to be okay. But if it'll ease your mind, go ahead and see the doctor, he said, gently stroking my hair. His understanding always moved me deeply, almost to tears. I started visiting the OB/GYN and underwent a series of tests. After many examinations, the doctors found nothing wrong. That's great news. There's nothing wrong, my husband said, looking at the test results with relief. See, what did I tell you? There's no need to worry. The baby will come when it's ready. His kind smile had comforted me countless times, and I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Next up is your test. It's a quick procedure, so maybe you could fit it in during a work break. It's likely that there won't be any issues on your end, but I wanted to be thorough and have you tested as well. I was confident that my husband would agree without much hesitation. Why should I get tested? Infertility is usually a woman's issue, and it's pointless for me to do it, he replied, his tone surprising me. It might seem pointless, but it's just a precaution. Besides, if it turns out there's an issue on the male side, there are treatments available. Wouldn't you consider it? I saw his expression darken and I understood his hesitation. The idea of having a problem could feel like a blow to his masculinity. It was a sensitive matter, and I knew that pushing him would be wrong. There's no rush. Whenever you have the time, I said, but he remained silent, and the subject was left unresolved for the day. One day, we visited my husband's family home for his mother's birthday. We brought a bouquet and a gift to celebrate. When my husband was a child, his father had an affair and disappeared, leaving his mother to raise him alone. I knew she had faced many hardships. This year, she turned 65 and finally retired after years of hard work, always dedicated to raising her children. I had great respect for her strength and resilience, and I hoped she could now enjoy her days in peace and happiness. I was certain the bouquet and gift would make her happy. With this conviction, I opened the front door to my in-laws' house. Well, hello there. My mother-in-law greeted us with a radiant smile. Oh, what beautiful flowers. And this bath set. I'm so touched you remembered how much I love my baths. As I had anticipated, she was thrilled with the gifts. It should have been a pleasant afternoon for the three of us. But then she said, I'm happy with the gifts and flowers, but I'm starting to look forward to seeing the grandchild's face. And the mood shifted dramatically. I was speechless, glancing at my husband, who remained silent. Mary, I know you're busy with work, but there are more important things than work, aren't there? You need to consider your health and think about starting a family. There are fertility treatments available now. I've addressed my health issues. I've been tested, and everything was fine. I want to hold a dear grandchild soon, Mary. I'm waiting, she said earnestly. Why is it always assumed that the woman is to blame for infertility? Why is nothing ever said to my husband? I wanted to argue, but I couldn't bring myself to. I was afraid it would create a rift between my mother-in-law and me. I wished my husband would speak up and clarify things, but he stayed silent. It felt as though the blame for our childlessness was entirely placed on me. I'm expecting to hear the good news of a baby by my next birthday, she added, her words heavy with expectation. The deadline made my anxiety soar. I kept telling myself not to worry, but her words echoed in my mind constantly. I can't recall much from the conversation that followed. As evening descended, we left my in-laws' home. On the way back, we walked side by side in silence, the setting sun casting our long shadows on the sidewalk. I fixated on those shadows the entire way. My husband's shadow moved forward, straight and unyielding. What was he thinking now? How did he take what his mother said? I wanted to ask, but I couldn't. No, I was afraid to. Afraid his words would crush me once more. We reached home without a word. I'm starving. Let's get dinner started, my husband said casually, as if nothing had happened. He probably intended to let the day end without addressing my feelings. Summoning my courage, I broke the silence. Hey, Stephen, about what your mom said today. He turned to me with his usual serene smile. Huh? What about it? He asked, that smile now seeming almost forced. She said she wanted grandkids, didn't she? I looked him straight in the eyes. Yeah, but since we can't have them, we just have to wait, right? No, that's not what I'm trying to say. You were the one who told me to prioritize my health over work and consider fertility treatments. I faced the issue head-on, got tested, and everything was fine. His expression started to shift. Why didn't you say anything back then? It feels like all the blame is on me, but I'm not the one avoiding the issue. You are, aren't you, Stephen? I hadn't meant to be so harsh, but once I started, the words just poured out. All my pent-up frustration erupted. What the heck? Always talking about tests. I already told you that the cause of infertility is often on the woman's side, and what Mom said wasn't wrong. It's not my fault, he shouted, his face turning red. This wasn't the calm, understating man I knew. I know it's not your fault, Stephen. It's unfair to blame anyone for infertility. I just want us to move forward. Whether we pursue treatment or not, we need to start with the tests. Despite our arguments, neither of us could see eye to eye, and we remained at an impasse. I can't deal with this anymore. I'm hungry. I'm going to get something to eat, my husband said. Leaving the house, I was left alone in the silent room. Suddenly, I felt all the strength drain from my body, and I collapsed onto the sofa. The image of my husband shouting replayed in my mind. Was it my fault? I hadn't meant to anger my kind husband. That wasn't my intention. I just wanted to be understood, to work together to build our future. That's why I wanted the tests. I couldn't stop crying in the quiet room, with only the sound of my sobs echoing around me. The next morning, my husband returned home silently. You said you were just going out to eat. Where did you spend the night? I was worried, I asked, but he didn't respond. It doesn't matter, he said, leaving that one phrase hanging in the air as he headed to work. It was our first big fight. These things happen. I hoped he'd be in a better mood by evening. With that hope, I too went to work. All morning, I could only sigh, but my husband's mood didn't seem to improve. Days turned into weeks, and he started leaving the house earlier and returning later. On weekends, he'd leave without a word and only come back after I had gone to bed. The time we used to spend together had drastically diminished. It felt like he was avoiding me, and I no longer knew how to reach out to him. Gradually, this silent existence became our new normal. I couldn't even remember the moments we used to cherish together. What had changed between us? Was it so wrong to suggest that test? Finally, my husband stopped coming home. Lately, you've been away a lot. Where are you staying? We spoke with our backs turned to each other. I've been swamped at work and always miss the last train, so I stay at a business hotel near the office, he replied, also with his back to me. I see, I said, and then he went off to the bedroom. At some point, my bed had become the couch in the living room. The excuse of working late didn't make sense. It wasn't even the busy season. My husband was hiding something. A few weeks later, it became clear. He would come home every few days, dump a load of laundry for me to do, and then pack his freshly washed clothes and underwear into his bag before leaving again. He could at least wash these himself. I muttered as I loaded his laundry into the machine. That's when I heard something drop with a clink. I looked around, but nothing was there. I was sure I heard something, so I searched more carefully this time. What could have fallen? When I stepped back, I noticed something glinting at my feet. There it was. What was this? I picked up the shiny object and held it in my hand. I was at a loss for words. The object was a small earring. For a moment, my mind went blank. But I wasn't as shocked as I thought I would be. It was obvious from the moment he stopped coming home. My husband was having an affair. I had this suspicion deep down, but I was afraid to confront the truth and pretended not to care. I just didn't want to hurt myself. But now, faced with the reality, I couldn't run anymore. I decided to confront my husband head-on to gather proof of his affair and end our marriage. The next day, I went to a private investigator. A few days later, the affair was exposed. That other woman was a new employee at the branch where my husband worked. Around the time our marriage began to falter, this young, attractive employee joined the company. With his trademark calm demeanor and kind smile, my husband charmed her, becoming her mentor at work. It seemed their relationship had developed from there. It was new to me, but apparently my husband had made advances on various female employees before, using his position as a superior. He would sweet-talk women, drawing them close with his clever tactics. I was just another woman who had fallen for his scheme. He probably chose me as a marriage partner because I was convenient. Frustration and anger bubbled up inside me. I decided it was time to end this chapter of my life. That night, as usual, my husband came home with a load of laundry. You might as well have her do your laundry at her place instead of coming all the way home, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm as he walked past me. He stopped and turned around. What are you talking about? I told you it's work. Then he looked at me with a cold stare. Is this what work is to you? What exactly are you teaching this female employee after hours? I thrust several photos in front of him. The images showed them leaving the workplace together and entering the apartment where the female employee lived alone. What's this? My husband's shock was palpable. Don't play dumb with me. I found everything, and these earrings. Weren't they the ones she was looking for? They were caught on your shirt. He froze, staring at the earrings in my palm. I never thought you were such a womanizer. Let's just end this now. You can date her openly. With that, I handed him the divorce papers. A tense silence hung in the air. He stared at the papers, shock etched on his face. Then, suddenly, he burst into laughter. What's this? Sour grapes. Are you jealous because we can't have kids? If you've got time to take pictures like these, why not focus on getting treatment so you can get pregnant? His audacity was staggering. Who's really full of sour grapes here? I struggled to keep my anger in check. Divorce? That suits me fine. She's pregnant. I've been wanting to cut ties with you ASAP. I'm only thinking about my new family now. To top off his affair, he got her pregnant. What a reckless man. I was at a loss for words, and so we got divorced. It was an anticlimactic end. He took only the bare essentials and left. I decided to move out of the rental condo we had shared. After finishing the lease termination, I was cleaning up the apartment. Everything my husband had left behind went straight into trash bags. I didn't have a shred of nostalgia. Just then, the doorbell rang. Who could it be at this time? I slowly opened the front door. Standing there was a man, disheveled and in dirty clothes. Someone I had never seen before. He greeted me and began to speak. His words left me stunned. 3 years had passed since then. After my divorce, I continued to save diligently, and finally, I reached my savings goal. I had made my dream come true, and so I quit my job at the travel agency. One day, I was strolling through one of the U.S. most famous wine regions, renowned for its vineyards and popular wine tastings. The area was buzzing with people enjoying the scenery, and new sweet shops and cafes had attracted a younger crowd, adding to its charm. I loved the vibrant atmosphere so much that I decided to move nearby. As I walked in the lovely weather, a familiar voice called my name from behind. Who could it be? I turned around, and to my surprise, I was stunned into silence by the sight before me. It was my ex-husband, whom I had parted ways with 3 years ago. Well, I never expected to run into you here. Are you taking a solo trip to wine country? That's pretty sad, he said, dressed in work clothes with a scruffy beard and messy hair. I wondered if he had quit his job at the travel agency. I never imagined we'd bump into each other like this. So, I hear you're stuck in hell because of some futile fertility treatments, he said with a sarcastic smile. It's pathetic, really. All that effort for nothing, he sneered, looking down on me. My ex-husband probably wanted to flaunt his happiness, boasting about his new baby from his second marriage, convinced he was on the winning side and mocking me. And whose story might that be? I shot him a cold glare. I got the scoop from the landlord of that rental place we used to live in. Sounds like you're in debt. After I left, some guy you borrowed money from came to collect, right? You racked up debt for expensive infertility treatments, and in the end, you got nothing but a pile of bills. The man he mentioned was someone who had come asking about money when I was cleaning out the apartment alone after our divorce. Debt? You're mistaken about something. But hey, sometimes it's better off being wrong. I confronted my ex-husband with a truth that visibly clouded his expression. It was a shocking revelation for him. 3 years ago, after our divorce, I was packing up our apartment when a man showed up. That man wasn't a debt collector. He was actually Stephen's father. I had been told he had run off with another woman years ago, but there he was, looking for Stephen. It seemed he had heard from someone where Stephen's married life was taking place. By that time, we were already divorced and had canceled the lease on the apartment. Our names had been removed from the door plate and mailbox, so this father didn't know Stephen's apartment number and asked the landlord on the first floor. The father mentioned only Stephen's last name and said he wanted to meet Stephen because he had lent him money. Frightened by the thought of a debt collector, the landlord contacted me immediately. When I heard about the visitor, I simply said, "Let him in, I'll meet with him." The landlord loved gossip, and I was afraid of rumors spreading. So the landlord, who probably believed the father was indeed a debt collector, likely told Stephen the story in a dramatic way. When they met, Stephen took it seriously. The reason Stephen's father came to the apartment was to ask for money. He had been abandoned by his mistress and was in financial trouble. Desperate to find Stephen, he came to ask for money, unaware that we had divorced. He humbly asked for my help, but it had nothing to do with me anymore. This man was not my relative or anything of the sort. I told Stephen's father to rely on his son and gave him Stephen's contact information. After that, Stephen's father left. Hearing this story, Stephen's face turned red with rage. You gave him my contact info. Ever since then, I've been hounded by dependency inquiries. It's been a nightmare. Amidst the cheerful laughter echoing through the wine country, my ex-husband's yelling cut through. Why do I have to help that guy? He left me, and Mom didn't either. Showing up now and asking for help. That's just too much. It's no wonder my ex-husband was angry. It was entirely his father's selfishness, but I had no sympathy to spare for that. And then my wife says she's sorry for having such a troublesome father and even talked about getting divorced because of it. That's quite the sorry situation. However, for the sake of our child who's on the way, I convinced her to give our marriage another shot. By agreeing to help out with her family business, we settled things amicably. I glanced at the name embroidered on the chest of his work clothes. From the company name, it seemed like my ex-husband's wife's family ran a cleaning business. He had given up his position as the head of a travel agency branch and was now working as a cleaner, entering and exiting inns daily. Since his wife managed all the earnings from the cleaning business, my ex-husband didn't have a penny to spend freely. It seemed his wife had seen through his womanizing ways and wanted him out of the travel agency and under her parents' watchful eye. I was impressed with such a grounded young wife. She's got it together, doesn't she? But it's PR for a wife to make her husband live so restrictively. Is there another reason? I wonder. My ex-husband suddenly became quiet and his face turned pale. What's the matter? You're still hiding something from me? I wasn't hiding anything. Just one thing was on my mind. I wonder if the child that's being born to you and your wife is really yours, I replied, patting my slightly swollen belly. My ex-husband looked at my belly and froze. It was as if time had stopped just for him. In fact, I was pregnant, just like the test results had shown. There was nothing wrong with my body. After the divorce, I led a life far beyond my ex-husband's imagination. That life was bliss itself. Saying that, I started to walk toward the upscale hotel in front of me. Then he said, "Wait, hear me out," trying to hold me back. But I had no obligation to listen to my ex-husband anymore. "We didn't ask for your cleaning services, so please don't come in." My ex-husband looked at me, puzzled. "What do you mean, we? Who are you to this place?" I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. "There's no more to discuss, but I'll leave you with one last thing. I'm the owner of this place." My ex-husband's face turned pale again. "My parents loved this wine country. When I was young, our family often spent time in a small hotel here in this city. That hotel, filled with our memories, had become old and run down, overshadowed by the new, larger hotels that had sprung up around it. Eventually, it faced financial difficulties and nearly had to shut down. It was my dream to buy that hotel. I saved most of my income from the travel agency, and thanks to living frugally, I finally reached my savings goal. I bought it with the inheritance from my parents and my savings, renovated it, and successfully reopened it. From my experience in the travel agency, I created an inn that feels cozy for everyone, young and old, men and women alike. The reputation of the inn spread rapidly. Now it has joined the ranks of luxury hotels, and my net worth has reached $260 million. Especially popular at the hotel is the food. Menus are tailored for each guest, and the meals are served with this personal touch. Many guests come back specifically for the meals. The meals reflect the dedication of the chef, who spares no effort for the sake of others. I empathize with the chef's caring heart, and we were drawn to each other. Then, I remarried him. After the remarriage, I got pregnant right away. I have no more conversations with my ex-husband. I turned my back on him. Please wait, it must be about money as usual. Why is he trying to stop me? To me, he's a stranger now. I owe him nothing. I have nothing more to discuss with you. Don't ever show up in front of me again. With that, I walked into the hotel. Even so, when my ex-husband tried to follow me in, he was stopped by the staff and sent outside. The sound of my ex-husband calling my name faded away and eventually disappeared. Our unexpected reunion turned out to be a crossroads for each of our futures. A few weeks later, I received a letter. The sender's name on the envelope startled me. It was from my ex-husband. I had thought everything with him was firmly in the past. Curiosity and apprehension made me hesitate before opening the envelope. The handwriting, dense and filled with his distinct quirks, left no doubt about its origin. The contents of the letter were shocking. Here's what it revealed. After our unexpected encounter, Stephen began to question whether the infertility issue might stem from him. He grew suspicious and asked his wife if he was truly the father of their child. Despite her assurances, Stephen had always felt a disconnect, suspecting the child was not his. After persistent questioning, his wife finally confessed that the child was not his. She had a past relationship during her college years, and though she had started a fling with Stephen when she began working at a travel agency, her heart belonged to her college boyfriend. She became pregnant by him, and when he learned of her pregnancy, he vanished, overwhelmed by the responsibility. Fearing the stigma of being an unmarried mother, she had lied about the child's paternity, claiming it was from her brief affair with Stephen, and married him for financial security. After the marriage, Stephen's wife discovered that his father had abandoned his family for a mistress, echoing her own experience of being abandoned by her college boyfriend. To control Stephen and keep his attention on her, she threatened him with divorce. She had him work under her parents' supervision, managed his paycheck, and ensured he had no disposable income. Frustrated with his constrained life, Stephen erupted when he learned the truth. The daily arguments with his wife grew incessant, and he chose to pursue a divorce. However, his in-laws, who sided with his wife, opposed the divorce. Determined, Stephen fled with barely any money, drifting from motel to motel. Without proper attire and with his unkempt appearance, he struggled to find work, resorting to odd jobs just to get by. He mentioned in his letter how he longed for the days when he had it easier. "Don't make a fool of me," wanting to get back together, I thought, feeling a mix of pity and frustration. His choices led him down this path: the fertility tests, the affair, and his dismissive attitude when we reunited. He was always selfish, never considering my feelings. I'm no longer the person I was back then. My future is bright, filled with the love of my new husband and the joy of our baby on the way. I had my lawyer inform him that any attempt to contact me or show up at my home would result in a restraining order. Then I tore up his letter. I'm due to give birth next month, and while I'm filled with joy, there's also a tinge of anxiety about becoming a mother for the first time. My kind husband is my rock, encouraging and caring for me every day. On his days off, he helps with the housework. With him by my side, I know everything will be all right. Today is his day off, and we plan to stroll through wine country, enjoying the changing seasons, then take a long, deep breath in our favorite park. It's our cherished walking route. Oh, the baby just kicked, I exclaimed with a smile. My husband quickly placed his hand on my belly, whispering gently to our baby, "This happiness isn't guaranteed. That's why it's so precious." As I took a deep breath of the fresh, crisp air in our charming town, I felt a profound sense of gratitude and peace. Every moment of this journey felt like a precious gift, and with my husband by my side, I knew we were ready to embrace the future together.